GERENetwork.com.
Hello, Sanjay. What are you doing? I am using my GERE Network app on my mobile device, my friend. Oh, GERE Network app. What is that? Well, do you listen to Get Ready America? No. Do you listen to Better Life Than Dead? No. Do you listen to Misguided Musings? I do not know. Well, my friend, they are very good shows and they are on this network. You can download the app by visiting gerenetwork.mobapp.at and download it on your Android device and save it to your home screen on your Apple device. What is Android? That is an operating system. What is Apple? That is another operating system. Oh, but I cannot eat that operating apple? No, you cannot eat that operating apple. However, you can go onto the GERE Network app and shop on the Amazon and have Apple delivered to you. Oh, that is wonderful. GERE Network app. Hooray!
This is a GERE Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Mr. Perez, and you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, brought to you exclusively on GERE Network. Listen in.
Better Live Than Dead, episode number 82, live right now as we talk to you through your ear holes. I am Ryan Wolf at Wolf BLTD. Joining me on the line, Mr. Perez at MRLG Perez. How you doing today, man?
Dude, episode 82. I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We took a week off, let some news pool up. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about today, so I'm not even going to wait. I'm just going to dive in head first.
Let's do it. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah, we'll start off with tennis, some tennis news, because last week Maria Sharapova tested positive for a banned substance, apparently something she's been taking for a while, but just this year it became a banned substance. I don't know if I believe her in terms of she needed to take it, because the company came out and said you take it like 4 to 6 weeks and you're good. She's been taking it for 10 years, and it's a lot more Russian athletes have been failing drug tests for this drug. So it might be something like in the Russian sporting world that it's a very popular substance because it's something that helps them out and makes them better, and they could get away with it. Now they can't. Now they're all getting busted. I don't know if that's the case, but that's certainly what it sounds like. I mean, it sucks for tennis because usually when one of the best goes down because of this, it kind of puts a little cloud over the sport. So hopefully this is just an isolated incident and it doesn't start affecting, other people don't start getting popped for foul drug tests. But I think it's very isolated. And I don't see why Maria Sharapova can't come back after her suspension. I think it's like a 2-year suspension or something like that. Why she can't come back after her suspension and regain the form that she has, because you can't fake talent. But then again, drugs, performance-enhancing drugs certainly can help.
Yeah, that's true. In this case, I feel it's kind of overblown. I mean, she was taking it for 10 years, true, but it's not like she's been the most dominant player on tour. She does have a history of diabetes in her family, so if this was helping curb that, then to me, I think it's kind of she should have checked the banned substance list when it came out in January. That was definitely her fault. I feel bad for her, but hey, whatever.
I mean, she said flat out, she goes, I didn't mean to break the rules or whatever, but it's like, yeah, if you're taking something and you're taking something, check the rules, man. Make sure it's legal, because if you get popped, you're going to look stupid. And, I mean, she looks dumb now.
Right. She still looks beautiful, though.
Okay.
Look, hey, Maria Sharapova's hot.
I want to move over to hockey. Talk some hockey real fast.
Okay.
That's fine.
Not a lot
We're talking
of hockey players.
Not a lot of hockey to talk about either. There's we're getting ready for the playoffs. Washington Capitals just clinched a playoff spot in naturally in their 69th game, which is super nice. They look like they're going to be the President's Trophy winners. They've been the best team all season. Talk more about the playoffs as they approach. But Tampa Bay, the Lightning have ended the suspension of forward Jonathan Drouin, which is a long time coming. He quietly asked for a trade. Excuse me, they wouldn't trade him, so he came out and said, "Trade me now." And they benched him, and they didn't trade him at the deadline. They'll probably trade him at the draft or sometime this summer, but for now, he'll be playing in Syracuse, at least for the time being. He may end up getting called back up at some point in time, but for now, he's back with the organization. He's playing. He's if I'm not mistaken, he's playing decent, and he'll work his way back up. I mean, maybe there's a change of heart and he stays in Tampa. I don't see that happening. I feel like that bridge has been burned and the ashes have been pissed on. If you will. He'll play hockey for the rest of the season. And like I said, I think at the draft we probably get a nice little deal between somebody, because there was a lot of interest in Drouin, but not enough. It's hard to make blockbuster trades at the trade deadline, because just the money, making the money work, making the players work, making the picks work. It's a lot easier just to do trades in June at the draft. So we'll probably see that then. Also, real fast, it sounds like right now as we speak, actually, the general manager meetings are going on. It's Wednesday the 16th. It's 3/16. Happy 3/16, by the way, Lewis.
That's you.
Forgot to tell you that. On 3/16, Quebec reportedly.
Technically, this whole month is 3/16.
It is, yes, it is. It's 3/16 Awareness Month. But Quebec is reportedly out of the expansion talk right now, as we all expected. I mean, they have the arena, they have the money, they have the backing, but the National Hockey League has wanted Quebec to stay available as a potential relocation point for a franchise because they are ready to go. But the Canadian dollar is also poop. It's like 75 cents right now. So the exchange rate, which would hamper revenue, because they play the NHL pays all their players in American dollars. Even the Canadian players, I believe, they get paid American dollars or something like that. I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought at least. So we will see what happens with that. But Quebec is out for now, and it sounds like Las Vegas is happening. I mean, we keep hearing talks about, we're not gonna expand yet, but then this morning we see tweets from the deputy commissioner talking about, well, if we have an expansion draft and it's only one team, every team can only lose one player, and I'm like, okay, just tell us, just say that Las Vegas is getting a hockey team and stop these shenanigans, and we'll move on. But
right.
We'll keep you updated on that one as we move forward. Also, something interesting to look at too out of the GM meetings. Apparently, because I'm sure, Lewis, I know you're not a gigantic hockey fan, but you watch enough. The offense and scoring are way down, and apparently they feel the way to fix scoring is to make goaltender equipment smaller. Now, that may work, but I don't think that's drastic enough. I mean, they have a bunch of different ideas on how to fix it, but goaltending talent has gotten better, defensive talent has gotten better, offensive talent has gotten better, and I mean, to put it into perspective, right now the league average save percentage is roughly around like 91%, 91.5. I think it's like 916 or 917. That's league average. So players are better than that. But like back in the 80s, league average was like 88, 89%. So, and that's when scoring was phenomenal, when you have, Wayne Gretzky and going off and scoring 200 points a season. So, I mean, goaltending probably is part of the problem, just because goaltenders have gotten so good and you have to find a way to break the system, I guess. But I'm not sure if making pads smaller will be the problem solver.
Honestly, I like the game and where it's at right now. Goalies have gotten so good that it's forcing the offensive players to up their game. And you're seeing at this point a lot of really phenomenal goals because people are having to get creative. And you're seeing some really awesome goaltending. Just watching Sports Center highlights, you see phenomenal save after phenomenal save right now. And to me, hockey is exciting. I like that aspect of hockey right now. I think trying to find a way to make scoring get higher kind of takes away from the mystique of being a goaltender. I mean, now, if you make the pads smaller, yes, you're going to make the goaltenders up their game, so they'll have to get even that much better. But let's say they do that, and then nothing really happens. That kind of just goes to show that the goaltending at this point has just gotten phenomenal. So, if you were trying to make the game more exciting, sure, go ahead and make those changes. But to me, I really like where the game is right now.
I like the offensive talent, but I would like to see more goals because goals are exciting. They're fun. They're whatever. It's cool. It's cool to see. And with the talent we have today, games shouldn't be ending 1-0 all the time. Games shouldn't be ending 2-1. Games shouldn't be ending 3-2. We should see a lot more goal scoring. We should see a lot more excitement because that's ultimately what's going to bring more fans to the sport is more scoring, more goals. Again, goals are it's like touchdowns in football. Why do they protect the quarterbacks and wide receivers so much? Because why do people watch the game for touchdowns? The goaltending has been fantastic, but I feel like if you make the pads smaller or you make it harder to be a goaltender, it may make the game more exciting, even more exciting than it already is. I also think, I know last year, the year before, they were talking about potentially banning going to the ice to block shots, like guys just laying on the ice to block a shot, because that's also another problem, I think, is blocking shots has become such a point in hockey, where if someone shoots a puck, you're laying down in front of the shot and you're going to take the shot off your rib cage. But as long as the shot doesn't get through, you've done your job. I believe that's become such a turning point for the sport is when block shots became a focal point for defensive play. So I think if you tweak the equipment with the goaltenders and maybe work on the block shot rule, maybe that'll help out. But then again, I mean, who knows at this point? Because, like we said, hockey's struggling for points, struggling for goals, and they're trying to figure out why people are getting pissed off watching hockey, because sometimes it can be very dull, especially when you have like superstars playing against each other, and you end up with a 1-0 game or a 2-1 game, and you're like, what is going on here? Like, why is this happening? Now, yes, like we said, teams are good, whatever, but the generational players should be able to take over a game, and with the way the rules are these days, it's very difficult.
Are they talking about laying down in front of the goal for everybody or just the goaltender?
No, laying down on, like, if a guy, I don't remember exactly when it was mentioned, but it was at a GM meeting, I think it was a year or two ago, where they said they were thinking about banning, like, if you're a defenseman and a guy goes to shoot the puck, you can't lay down on the ice.
Okay, gotcha.
And I think that's a lot of the, because you'll just see guys just dive on the ice and just slide around and just act like they're trying to block a shot. They look like they're flailing what they're trying to block a shot. And I think that might be part of the problem, but that's just me. But that's something that we could talk about down the road, and we can see if that actually becomes a thing. I know with all these rules coming up, or the potential rule changes coming up, we can see what that does to the game. Because I mean, it could be, hey, let's make the goaltending equipment smaller, and that solves the problem.
Right.
Because there's no way that there are this many good goaltenders. I struggled to buy that. Like that there are this many elite goaltenders essentially. Because I feel like the game has become goaltender driven. If you have a good goaltender, you can win a championship. If you have a good quarterback in football, you can win a championship. But if you don't have those guys, you're not winning. That's how it's become. Right. I feel like it's not if you have a superstar forward and you can roll 4 lines a night for 18 games or whatever, 16, 17, 18 games in the playoffs. It's not become that anymore. It's become, do you have a good goaltender, and can you smother the other team with good defense? And I feel like they're trying to get away from that because they're, like I said, goaltenders are as good as we've ever seen them. The numbers are as ridiculously high as we've ever seen them. And at some point in time, I mean, yeah, there may be some goaltenders that play now and I make the game more offensive driven and less goaltender driven. A lot of guys may fall off, but there still may be a guy who has a 9.15 save percentage and a 2.2 goals allowed a game. That's fine because there are guys out there that are going to do that. But I don't feel like every goaltender is able to be that good right now. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But goaltenders are getting bigger. It's harder to score. Got to make the equipment smaller.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that.
Let's move over to baseball now. How's that sound?
Not that my opinion really matters, but I'm cool with that.
We'll see what happens because they're talking about it. And like I said, it looks like they're getting new equipment out to goaltenders this offseason, this summer. So it may be something where, and even goaltenders now. The thing that before we move on to baseball, the thing that lets me know there's an issue is when goaltenders are saying they need to make pads smaller.
Right.
Like that's when I know. Okay, something's going on here.
Right.
But moving over to baseball now, a couple signings to talk about real fast. The Baltimore Orioles sign ex-Pirate Pedro Alvarez. Should be a good signing for them, a 1-year deal. Should bring some pop to that lineup. And the White Sox signed outfielder Austin Jackson, who also should be relatively reliable in the outfield for the White Sox. Now, question I have for you, Lewis, because we always love to talk about unwritten rules of sports. And last week, Bryce Harper told ESPN, quote, "Baseball's tired. It's a tired sport because you can't express yourself. You can't do what other people in sports. You can't do what people in other sports do." I'm not saying baseball is, boring or anything like that, but it's the excitement of the young guys who are coming into the game now and who have flair. Now, if that's the end of the quote, but if you can follow me for a second, don't act surprised when Bryce Harper's comments got out and all the old baseball players immediately got butthurt about it because Bryce Harper has a point. If young players today try to be a character, try to stand out on their own, try to do something to become different than the rest of Major League Baseball, if they break the mold, if they don't follow the cookie cutter format, essentially, they'll get blacklisted, or they'll get Bryce Harper will get thrown at. If Bryce Harper pimps a home run, if he hits a ball 400 feet and he pimps a home run, he's going to get a fastball in the rib cage next time he goes up to the plate, like stuff like that. Unwritten rules, garbage. At least I think so. What do you think?
When it comes to that aspect of things, I think the unwritten rules are stupid. The young players today, there's a lot of players who are phenomenal players. They have a lot of flair. They want to show off. And frankly, there was a time where the play was really good, but the players themselves were kind of stodgy and kind of boring. And as much as I love baseball, watching that, players be just really dull was annoying. So I like the new kind of player that's coming in and wants to be, a little flamboyant, but not overly flamboyant. I enjoyed that.
It's one thing. The one example, and sorry to cut you off, Liz, but the one example Bryce Harper pointed out, I believe Bryce Harper pointed out, he goes, if Jose Fernandez in Miami strikes me out, I expect him to be lit up and be emotional about it.
Right.
But then again, and I won't be mad. But if I hit a 400-foot home run off of him, I hope he knows he can expect the same thing from me, and I would expect him not to be mad. But that's what makes baseball great these days. Is you get these kids who are looking to express themselves in a different way because it's a different generation. It's not your dad's baseball anymore. Essentially, I guess is the best way to put it. Not a bunch of old white guys who, hate everybody, hate everything, just hate everything because that's what old white people do. Ask Goose Gossage, who has apparently made himself out to be a gigantic piece of crap, which is not surprising. About Bryce Harper, and then somehow turned into Cam Newton and said how we don't need more Cam Newtons in sports, but Cam Newtons are the reason people watch sports these days. Like, I don't watch sports to watch the boring white guy. I watch sports to watch the exciting young talent do what the exciting young talent does.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, I'm going to watch Bryce Harper. If the Red Sox aren't playing and Bryce Harper's on, you're goddamn right I'm watching the Nationals play because Bryce Harper's exciting. Bryce Harper does crazy things. Bryce Harper is a crazy dude. He has a lot of fun. He enjoys himself on the field and off the field. Like, that's what I want to see in sports because sports have gotten boring. Don't be a robot. What's up?
I said certain sports, definitely.
Yeah, guys are too robotic in sports. Like, be yourself, have a personality, But then again, Bryce Harper has a personality, and then all the old baseball players come out and say that he's a thug or something, or he's terrible, or he should stick to the game. And it's like, shut the hell up. Like, you're not playing in the 50s and the 60s. Like, this is a different era. So I'm happy Bryce Harper stood up and said something because, it's something that needed to be said by someone who certainly has a lot of ground to say it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm glad you said something too. I like the flair. I like the showing off. It to me that's fun. As long as you don't go over the top with it, I have no issue with it.
Absolutely. Now, real quick, last thing before we move on to football. We're going to close the show with UFC today because there's a lot of UFC news going on, which we missed. But got a lot to talk about in football. But last thing before we move on. 2016 over-under for baseball from Bovada. They have the Chicago Cubs winning 92.5 games. Would you go over or under for the Cubs at 92.5?
I'm going under.
I want to say over because they won 97 games last year. They got better. They got deeper. They picked up John Lackey. They picked up Jason Hayward. So I don't think they're going to be the best team in baseball, but I certainly think over 92 wins is
Wait,
certainly.
did you say Cubs?
Yeah.
My bad. I thought you said White Sox.
No, Chicago Cubs. If I said White Sox, I'm sorry, but Chicago Cubs. Yeah,
No, I might have just misheard you. I think you did. Yeah, I'm going to go over.
The Mets are second with 89.5. I want to say probably over, but I don't know if they can rekindle the magic from last year.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but they looked really good last year.
But then again, that pitching staff healthy in a full year of Yoenis Cespedes, I mean, they could win 95 games this year, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I'm going to say over, but slightly.
Now I'm just going to zoom down the list a little. Toronto. We're going to talk about the AL East here for a second. The Toronto Blue Jays have the highest win over-under for wins at 87.5. What do you have for Toronto this year, Lewis?
Well, they've lost some players, but they've added. I'm going to say 85.
I'm going under with Toronto at 87.5. I think the East is going to be like it was last year, where teams are probably going to struggle, and it may take a midseason trade to push one team to the top. But I don't think Toronto has done enough to recover from last season. I mean, they still have everybody intact, but the rotation is completely different. And I don't know if, and I wrote about this on BLTDsports.com in my 2016 baseball MLB preview. It's going to take a lot for Toronto to rekindle what they did last year, because last year for them was a lot of everything falling into the right spot. And you don't have David Price. I mean, you have a full year of Stroman as your ace essentially, but can he be as dominant as he was last year? Will Marco Estrada be able to redo what he did last year, which is he had a career season? He was fantastic last year. Can R.A. Dickey continue the resurgence that he's had the past couple seasons? Be a Jose Bautista, which I don't doubt that, or will Edwin Encarnacion, will he be able to continue to do what he does? Will Josh Donaldson be able to bounce back from an MVP season with another very solid season? You don't know. And that's to me, maybe because I'm a Red Sox fan and I pay attention to the East a lot, maybe that's why I'm overthinking it maybe. But I don't think Toronto is going to be as good as they were last year.
I think they're going to be – I don't think they're going to be better. I think they may be as good, maybe a little. I'm going under 2, but not by a significant amount. I think they're going to be okay.
Next, the Boston Red Sox are 86.5. I think that's generous because I'm not sold on Hanley Ramirez at first. I'm not sold on Pablo Sandoval at third. The outfield, I think the outfield will be okay because they've got Jackie Bradley, they've got Mookie Betts. Rusney Castillo will probably be able to find his own. I'm a little worried about David Ortiz because he's kind of become a slow starter, but I don't think I'm too worried about it because usually, I mean, he'll end up hitting 275 and 30 and 100 next season, and it won't be a problem if he stays healthy. But I've got questions about the rotation with Clay Buchholz being the 2. I don't know if that's going to be good. The rest of the rotation, I just don't know what's going on with that. I mean, Rick Porcello has been beaten up pretty bad this preseason. I mean, I'm cool with David Price. Like, David Price as the ace is pretty sweet, but I mean, the bullpen's real good. They've got Craig Kimbrell at the end of the bullpen, so you know they've got a little deeper there. But I would have to say 86.5, probably under, if not a push, because unless like Pablo comes off and hits 15 home runs and has a 260, 270 average, Hanley goes out and hits 30 home runs or 20 home runs and hits 275, 280. It's gonna be tough for the Red Sox if those guys aren't on, and that's, to me, they are like the X factor this season. Hanley and Pablo. If they have a bad year, it's over. If they have a good year, maybe you're looking at the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it a push. I think that they're toying with everything, and they've added some players that should help. I think Pablo Sandoval didn't have a great season last season.
No, one of his worst of his career, offensively and defensively.
Yeah, so I expect him to be more comfortable with the new team, so I think he's probably going to improve quite a bit. So I'm going to make it a push.
2 more, and then we'll move on here because these 2 teams are tied at 85.5. First off, the New York Yankees.
That's a tough one, man, because I mean they've done some moves in the off season, but nothing that really is stand outish, so to say. But they also surprised a lot of people last season. I'm gonna go with a push.
I feel like they may be over. They may win 87 or 88 games, maybe. But like I said, like you said, I mean, the bullpen's better. Rotation is still the rotation. It's okay, but the bullpen is stronger. It's deeper because of Aroldis Chapman, although he's going to be suspended a bunch of games for domestic violence issues.
Right.
But when he comes back, that bullpen's going to be super deep, and they should be able to steal a couple games because of that. So I think 88 is probably fair for them, 87, 88. But the one that surprises me here, the defending World Series champion, Kansas City Royals, 85.5 games. I feel like that is grossly under.
Well, they did lose a couple key components, but they've also added. I agree. I think that might be really under what they're going to be able to do this season. Quite frankly, I think they're going to make another deep run into the playoffs.
I absolutely agree. They have the core is there. They did add a couple new guys, like they added Ian Kennedy into the rotation. But I feel like Kansas City has found a formula that works, and they're going to stick to it until it doesn't work. And I feel like that's why Kansas City is 85.5 is way under.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can see them winning, quite a bit more than 85. Well, maybe not quite a bit, but they're definitely going to be really, really good.
I think 90 plus is fair, and I think they'll win that division easily.
Oh yeah, no, I could go with that all day. But being as now we're going into a new season soon, we already know who's going to win the World Series this year.
San Francisco Giants.
Absolutely.
We have to put that on the air so when it happens, we can come back and we can look at today and say we called it.
Right.
We should just record it. We should just record every single team, saying every single team will win the World Series. So when they win, we can say, "Look, we guessed it."
And then splice it back in.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I did with the Astros last year, man. They almost made that dream come true.
That would have been something else.
Would have been.
Moving over to the National Football League, Peyton Manning officially announced his retirement. Statistically, the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Statistically. When it comes to Super Bowls, no. Regular season, yes. Postseason, no. So he's gone. Washington cuts RG3. Not a surprise there. He's still a free agent. Miami acquires linebacker Kiko Alonso and cornerback Byron Maxwell from the Philadelphia Eagles. A big trade, mostly because of names. But Alonso and Maxwell both last year disappointed, and I'm sure Philadelphia was more than happy to get rid of them. Detroit wide receiver Calvin Johnson officially retires, but a lot of rumors are starting to gain some steam that Calvin Johnson will be taking a year off from football and then coming back, because if he retires and sits out a full season, he can become a free agent.
I can see that happening.
And Calvin Johnson at 32.
Still one of the most dominant wide receivers out there.
A healthy Calvin Johnson at 32. Or 33, or however old he'll be. But still, Calvin Johnson, fantastic. The New York Giants re-signed Jason Pierre-Paul, not a surprise. Buffalo re-signs left guard Richie Incognito, also not a surprise. A big move they needed to make if they wanted to try to stay relevant. Minnesota cuts wide receiver Mike Wallace, who we'll talk about in just a little bit. Philadelphia signs cornerback Leodis McKelvin from the Buffalo Bills. Jacksonville drops some major coin on defensive lineman Malik Jackson of the Denver Broncos. I think Jacksonville had like $90 million in cap space this year to spend, so they went out and bought some good talent there. The Miami Dolphins signed defensive end Mario Williams. It could be a very big move for Miami, but unfortunately, I feel like Miami still struggles for a direction. So they go out and make these big signings, but they just don't really have a direction for their team.
I think Miami's defense this year is probably going to be really good.
Yeah, but the offense won't do enough to get them in the playoffs.
Right. That's exactly what I was about to say. We're on the same wavelength right now.
Yeah, they struggle. They struggle finding an identity because they don't know if they want to be a defensive team with a mediocre offense or an offensive team with a mediocre defense.
Right.
Or because they just can't. They can't get it figured out. They can't make it work, and that's their problem. That's why they struggle. Oakland, another team with a lot of cap space, signs linebacker Bruce Irvin of the Seattle Seahawks. Jacksonville signs running back Chris Ivory. Pretty big signing for them. The Jets fill Chris Ivory's hole, his spot on the roster. That was a not safe for work line right there. The Jets signed running back Matt Forte of the Bears. An interesting move because I don't know if the Jets are a team that's ready to take the next step. And you figure Forte would want to be on a team that was ready to take the next step. I know a lot of people rumored him to go to New England, but he ends up with the Jets. We'll see how that one works out for them. I think it's a smart move, at least for the Jets. Shocker of the free agent season so far. Shocking free agent signing, I should say. Houston signs quarterback Brock Osweiler to a massive contract. Massive contract.
Dude, massive. Dude, for someone who played 7 games in his entire career, started 7 games, he got paid.
Well, apparently, a lot of people thought he was walking from money, but from reports from family and friends, he was apparently out of Denver when they benched him for Peyton Manning. Which, can you blame him? I mean, he gets a ring, he gets a nice little check.
Yeah, like I get
that was at the end of the season. It was Brock's team, and he thought he was ready to go, and he played good enough.
Yeah, no, he did. I mean, he 5 wins, 2 losses. I mean, he played well, but you knew they were going to start Peyton no matter what. Once he got quote unquote healthier, you're used to that system. You could have stuck around, but
Brock Osweiler. Looking back, Brock Osweiler could have won them the Super Bowl if the defense had played the same way for him that they did for Peyton.
Oh, I agree with you. Absolutely, I agree. But there was no way they were not going to let Peyton play that game.
Absolutely, but hindsight being 20/20, you can understand why he'd be pissed. I mean, if someone came to you and said, "Hey, you're doing a good job, but we're going to bench you for someone else,"
right?
You're like, "What? What?" So you can understand why he's pissed.
Yeah, no, I get it. But, dude, you got $31 million guaranteed.
Not a bad thing. And I don't know if it's going to be the answer for Houston, but you know what? They've got the money to find out, and they've got some nice weapons. I know they picked up Lamar Miller from Miami. I believe it's Lamar Miller they picked up from Miami to replace Arian Foster. They've got some good wide receivers. They've got a very underrated defense. I mean, in that division, in that weak division, they might be able to steal it next season.
That's true. I mean, what was that contract? Like $72 million with 31 guaranteed?
Yeah, it was something. It was something ridiculous. It was over $70 million. I know that. I don't remember exactly how much after $70 million, but then cash.
That's a good payday for only ever starting 7 games.
Yeah, dude. Where do we apply?
For real.
Cleveland cuts quarterback Johnny Manziel. Not a surprise here.
Nope.
I don't know if we ever see him back in the NFL. Maybe a little while before we see him back, and then again, some team may sign him this offseason. But right now, it doesn't look like anybody's sniffing around Manziel. So maybe he can get his personal matters in order, and he can get better, and then come back to football. Free safety Eric Weddle, formerly of the Chargers, signs with the Baltimore Ravens. Packers defensive tackle B.J. Raji is stepping away from the game for a season to get healthy. He's a free agent right now. Originally they said he was retiring, and he said, "No, I'm just taking some time off to heal up and get better." But usually when players step away and they start to feel better, they don't want to come back.
Right.
Pittsburgh wide receiver Martavius Bryant begins serving an indefinite suspension. He's apparently failed 6 drug tests, 2 of which he was a no-show for. But he's been going through some very severe depression issues from what his agent said. So hopefully he gets well soon. Get right for yourself. Football is secondary at this point. But apparently he's been, like I said, struggling with depression and substance abuse because of the depression, and it's obviously causing some major issues. I mean, he's a talented kid. We've seen what he can do in Pittsburgh. So hopefully he gets right, like we said for Manziel. We say it for everybody. Get right for yourself first, and then sports comes second. But I assume we'll see him around sometime soon, as long as he gets back on the straight and narrow. I mean, we've seen players get suspended and definitely never return because they can't stay out of trouble. But this sounds less of like a getting in trouble and more of like a just get right mentally for yourself.
Right.
Put your head back on straight, get some help, all that stuff, and be better. The Baltimore Ravens signed wide receiver Mike Wallace. I told you we'd talk about him. And after Miami signed running back C.J. Anderson to an offer sheet, Denver matches, so C.J. Anderson goes back to Denver. New England signs defensive end Chris Long to replace the man we're about to talk about in a second. Shocker of the offseason so far. Biggest move we've seen in a long time. The New England Patriots deal defensive end Chandler Jones to the Arizona Cardinals for guard Jonathan Cooper and a second-round pick. I did not see this move coming. I mean, it makes sense, but I did not see this move coming at all. And I don't think anybody did, really.
Yeah, no, that was a surprising move right there. That was, dude. So
I mean,
yeah.
we saw what happened with Chandler Jones, where he ended up at smoking synthetic marijuana and then showing up at a police station asking for help and all that stuff, and that kind of apparently rubbed the organization the wrong way. But he's a free agent after the season, and New England wasn't going to re-sign him because New England rarely ever re-signs people long-term, aside from Tom Brady. So it was something where you knew he was probably going to wear, so try to get value for him right now. And they did a good job. I mean, they've got a prospect who was a top pick a couple years ago, had a broken leg, never was able to regain his form because he lost his job. But the Patriots may be able to do something with him. Plus, they get a second-round pick. So worst case scenario, if Cooper doesn't work out and Chandler walks, Chandler walks in Arizona, they got a second-round pick out of it.
Right.
But a very shrewd move by Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, it should work out for him.
I mean, I'm thinking because apparently he's going to play linebacker with the Cardinals, so you have to think that the Cardinals want him to fit like that Von Miller role, like linebacker, defensive end, and it'll be very interesting to see how he plays out there. But damn, dude, that defense is going to be nasty. Like, they're already really good. They're going to be even harder to play against next year.
I agree.
And that could push them into the Super Bowl conversation because Chandler Jones is a very good talent.
Yeah, he is.
Moving over to UFC now, real fast. Before we wrap this, Scott, big news this week. Well, last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. UFC 196 is in the books. Miesha Tate takes out Holly Holm, who wins the championship. Fantastic fight. In the fifth round, Tate told everybody, I was willing to get knocked out, but that allowed her to get the submission. She put herself out there, went nuts, put her in a triangle choke. Holly Holm tapped out. After the fight, a couple days after, Dana White told Holly Holm her manager was stupid because Holly Holm suggested she fight, once more before UFC 200 and before fighting Ronda Rousey again. Dana White said, probably not a good idea. Holly Holm insisted, and now Holly Holm is not the champion. So we have like a triangle going on here because we're going to get Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate 3, which the UFC didn't want to do because Ronda Rousey has handled Miesha Tate fairly well the other two times.
Yes,
but now the title is on the line, and it's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. But say Ronda Rousey beats Miesha Tate, we'll have to get that means we'd have to get Tate Rousey 4 because obviously when you lose your title,
you get a
rematch. Yeah, you get a rematch. So we would get that fight. Plus, don't forget, Holly Holm gets a shot at her title. So she gets to fight. She has a title shot. Plus, if Rousey wins, you probably will do Rousey Holm, and then the winner of that faces Miesha Tate, and then you just call it off, and then you move on. But if Miesha Tate wins, that'll throw a wrench into things. I mean, I think no matter what, Rousey wins the title again and then probably retires because she seems like she's getting to that point. Yeah, she seems like she's getting to that point where she can prove that she can beat Miesha Tate. She may want to fight Holly Holm one more time just to prove that she can beat Holly Holm.
Right.
So she doesn't have that blemish on her record. But
speaking of Ronda Rousey, they're redoing Mortal Kombat, and she is signed on to play Sonya Blade.
Dude, she is the worst actor I've ever seen in my life.
Nah, I've seen worse.
She's really bad, dude. She is really bad.
Yeah, but if you give her roles where she doesn't have to speak a lot, like in Expendable 3, she was fine.
But it's her face though. Like she can't act with her face.
Right.
She always looks like she always looks constipated and like angry.
Right. Hopefully, they'll do something with that because they're remaking one of my favorite movies ever in Roadhouse, and she's going to be the main character.
That's going to be horrible. I hope you know that.
Dude, I'm very, very concerned.
The last fight to talk about here. Sorry.
I love that movie.
Last fight to talk about from UFC 196. Nate Diaz makes Conor McGregor tap out, shockingly. But what we all kind of expected to happen happened. McGregor was fighting at 170. He's been at 170 all camp. He was bigger. I mean, I feel like there's a difference between fighting at 170 after a 145 camp and fighting at 170 after a 170 camp. McGregor said his energy was sapped. And it doesn't sound like he'll fight at 170 again. He may, but from after the fight, it didn't sound like that was something he wanted to entertain. After the fight, naturally, after McGregor loses, Jose Aldo calls him out on Twitter and called him a pussy and said, hey, it's time to fight. McGregor's, said, hey, I'm down. I'll fight you at 145 for the title, and I'll prove everybody wrong and tell him, show him that it wasn't a fluke. But Nate Diaz should get a title shot at 170 here soon. McGregor said he was going to go beat Aldo, close that chapter, and then he wants to come back and fight Nate Diaz again for the title at 170. So that'll be interesting to see if that happens. But I think it's a good thing for Conor McGregor to lose and a good thing for the sport that Conor McGregor lost because, first off, you get to build up more stars, but keeping McGregor kind of grounded a little is good for the sport because like I said before, if you have one guy dominating the whole sport, it kind of becomes dull. And it's kind of like what Rousey was doing in her weight class. She dominates the whole sport, and you're like, what's this? What are we doing here? Why are we watching? So to have that take place, I guess it's not so bad. But I mean, McGregor will be back because he was very humble in defeat. He said, I overexerted myself, put myself in a bad spot, and I lost. And it is what it is. There's no Nate Diaz didn't get lucky. Nate Diaz fought a great fight. Conor McGregor didn't. Conor McGregor got choked out.
Well, we had talked about this before the fight, and I had expressed concerns that him jumping up that way might be detrimental. And what I said bared out to be true. Now, with that being said, he did lose steam in that second round. But he, for a while there, he made Nick Diaz pretty bloody. It looked like he was going to coast to another win, and then he lost steam. So it'll be interesting to see the fight at that particular weight again. But I think he'll probably back to the smaller weights and be extremely dominant there.
I think so. I think 145 is where he needs to be, and that'll be good for, like I said, it'll be good for him. It'll be good for the UFC. Maybe he moves up a weight class, maybe one or two, but I don't, or maybe one. I don't think he fights at 170 again, ever. But that's just me. But we'll see. I'm just reading something on Twitter right now. First off, the one last thing I want to mention, Uriah Faber and Faber Cruz. I completely just blanked for a second. Sorry. Faber Cruz 3. We're getting that at Dominic Cruz, Uriah Faber. That's what I couldn't remember Dominic Cruz's name for a second. Dominic Cruz, Uriah Faber 3, UFC 199 for the title. That'll be fun because Cruz had been saying forever Faber doesn't deserve another shot, but Faber has beaten everybody, done everything the UFC has asked him to do, and now it's time to get Faber, Cruz 3. I keep forgetting. I'm like losing my mind over here.
Right.
It's the final fight, hopefully, of this final fight between these guys. The other two fights have not disappointed. Faber still can't get over the hump to win a UFC championship. So maybe this is finally the fight where he does it. We'll see. Because Cruz looked really good his last fight. He hurt his foot, but he looked really good his last fight. So we'll see what happens. But I really hope Uriah Faber wins.
Yeah, me too. I like Uriah Faber.
I mean, I feel like he's a UFC Hall of Famer, but this would be the bow on his career.
Right. I could agree with that.
I was reading Twitter, and I am thoroughly impressed because a Miami Marlins beat writer tweeted out that Barry Bonds just beat a slew of Miami Marlins players in a batting practice home run derby, including Giancarlo Stanton.
Wow. Well, there was never
That's
any
amazing.
doubt that Barry Bonds could swing the wood.
Well, that's amazing. Like, that's fantastic.
Good for Barry.
But that's been the podcast. Podcast is good.
Awesome. Well, I
A
agree.
little under an hour. It's been a good podcast. Been good to get back on the horn. Talk about some sports. We got to meet up sometime soon. I've got this new setup I want to try out. I want to see if it works. And I know life's been difficult with you looking for a job and all that stuff. And hopefully that works out for you very soon and you get a new gig. But we got to meet up sometime soon. And I know I'm going to be actually living out in Greece starting in May. I signed a lease on an apartment in Greece, so I'll be living back out there. And kind of in your neck of the woods, so it'll be easier. Easier than Holly, that's for damn sure. But we'll meet up,
No doubt.
do some podcasting. It'll be like the old days, you know?
I'm looking forward to it.
Dude, me too. Absolutely, me too.
Looking forward to it.
I'm just checking. I'm checking Twitter just to make sure we're not missing any news. But I guess I'll let you get going because I'm gonna go get going. I'm gonna go. Actually, I got my dash mount today for my cell phone, so I'm gonna go try to get the BLTD BLTD TV CarCast, whatever you want to call it. We're just gonna call it BLTD TV, I guess. Working on BLTD TV. Gonna try to get it to be a little better than before because you always strive to get better when you do things. And BLTD TV #1 was a hit. It was excellent. It was fun. Sam Rodriguez, one of our writers at Sammy Rod on the Twitter bots, R0D. He's good people. He's a good friend. I've known him for a while, like 6 years now. Holy crap! Actually, almost 7 years because I went to college in 2009. I met him in 2009. So yeah,
Nice.
it's been a while. But we did a trip from, I don't know if you saw it, Louis, but we did the trip from his house to the First Niagara Center and just talked about hockey. And I'm thinking this might be a new way to do podcasting. So maybe sometime soon we can do a car cast where we just drive somewhere, go get donuts, and just podcast, just shoot the shit on the air. I shouldn't have swore because this whole podcast I purposely didn't swear, but I sweared now. I sweared, guys. But yeah, I'm down for that. Let's do it sometime.
I'm down. Let's do it.
In lieu of a BLTD podcast, we'll just do a car cast for on a week and go from there. But I am Ryan Wolf at Wolf BLTD on Twitter. Joining me on the line at Mr. Perez at MRLG Perez. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate your continued support. Check out BLTDsports.com. We've got baseball coming up. We're going to try to get credentials for the Red Wings and for the Bisons. So we'll have more baseball stuff going up on the website soon. Hockey's in full swing. Basketball's in full swing. Steph Curry's still doing Steph Curry stuff. I think the Warriors are 60-6 right now as of the podcast. Still chasing down that record. Yeah, chasing down the record for greatest team ever. How they lost 6 games, I don't know, but hopefully they don't lose any more because I want to see them get that record for most wins in a season. Aside from that, as we always say, we are better live than dead.
You're not.
We'll catch you same time, same place next week. Great news. My schedule changes Monday through Friday, so I got the weekends wide open after next week. But
Very
next
cool.
week, I'm actually getting a tattoo done next Wednesday. I'm getting my tattoo redone. So we'll probably talk next Wednesday. If not, we'll talk next Saturday. But aside from
Sounds
that,
good.
friends, thanks again for tuning in. Follow us at BLTD Sports on Twitter, BLTDsports.com. Have a wonderful day.
Like,
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the GERE Network.